are live. Hello? Chat, you there? Can you hear me? Hello? Hey, hello? How do you do? Right. Looks like everything is good. Oh yeah, the music. Always forget about the music. Let's try this one. Alright. Looks like chat has stopped by. Yeah, there we go. Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Do Rags here. Alright, y'all ready to talk about Avatar Korra, the greatest avatar that ever lived, according to some people who may or may not be me? So basically, I got an Avatar project coming up, and I have Avatar: The Last Airbender like just completely memorized, but not the Legend of Korra. I had to rewatch The Legend of Korra. Well, when I say rewatch, I had to rewatch Season 1 and Season 2. By the way, is the music good for you guys? Not too loud, is it? I had to rewatch Season 1 and Season 2 of Legend of Korra, and because I originally did see it when it first came out. But then when Season 3 came out, I had a job that had me working at the same time as the show was airing, so I never got to see all of Season 3, and I didn't see any of Season 4. So, yeah, that's, but my overall opinion of Korra has basically been what I've thought of Season 1 and Season 2. Originally, I loved Season 1 of Korra. I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, which, by the way, Avatar: The Last Airbender is hands down my favorite show of all time. The only contender for it is DuckTales, the reboot of DuckTales. But DuckTales hasn't ended yet, so it could get better or it could get worse. If DuckTales ends right now, it'll probably be tied with Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I'm waiting to see if it gets better or if it gets worse. But anyway, Avatar: The Last Airbender is like my hands down favorite show. Whenever I'm like thinking about literature and shows and whatnot, I a lot of times in my head I'm comparing it to Avatar, because to me that is Avatar: The Last Airbender is as perfect as you can get to telling a story, to a cartoon. There's no such thing as a perfect story or a perfect cartoon or anything like that, but I think Avatar is as close to it as you can get. So when The Legend of Korra came out, I was super excited, and I really did like the first season when it first came out. I didn't like Korra herself, the character Korra, but I did love the first season of The Legend of Korra, except the finale. I did not like the finale when it first. I hated the finale. I vehemently hated the finale when it first aired. I saw Season 2 when it first aired, and I didn't really like it too much until it got to Avatar 1. Once it got to Avatar 1, I liked it. And then Season 3 came out, and I only saw half of Season 3. So as time went by, my opinion of the show as a whole started to degrade, because a lot of the stuff I remembered about the show was mainly negative. It was mainly how I felt about Korra herself, and I did not like Korra. And then when you go on reviews on YouTube, a lot of them are talking about the negative aspects of Korra. So that's mainly how I remembered the show. And yeah, my overall opinion of it before doing this rewatch was very negative. So now I'm watching it, and now I'm watching it. Now I just watched it. I just rewatched the whole thing, and I got some thoughts I want to talk about, but I want to like kind of keep it focused. Starting with Season 1. Shady, are you familiar with ER's essays about Avatar Korra? Yes, very. I have seen them. I've referenced them in past videos, and I went and rewatched them after I was done with Korra, because a lot of things that ER says before this whole thing, I agreed with him. There are a lot of things I still agree with on ER, but I think there are some things that he feels more strongly about than I do. I know ER is probably like the Korra fan base's worst enemy. Because like you type in Legend of Korra, he's one of the first videos, if not the first video that comes out. But anyway, I'm going to focus right now on Season 1. So, Season 1, Legend of Korra, what is it, Book Air, I think it is? Yeah, Season 1. One of the big things I said about Korra in this season was that I felt she was just as bad as a Mary Sue in Season 1. I didn't think she was a Mary Sue, going by the traditional definition of Mary Sue, but I thought she was just as bad as one for the story, and that's why in my other video about Legend of Korra, I was like, hey, I think we should change the definition of a Mary Sue, because there are some characters like Korra who are just as bad. I'm actually going to retract that opinion. I don't think Korra is just as bad as a Mary Sue. I think the first three videos, I was reading the comment. I think the first 3 episodes, she's in that area. She's like, she's too powerful. She goes against authorities. The authorities that go against her are seen as the wrong guys. Like she has all the problems of a Mary Sue in like the first 3 episodes. But once you hit episode, I think it's 4, where she shows her fear of Amon, like that's like a backup moment. Like she is torn down a peg, and this is something I disagree with ER on, because he says he thinks Korra is a Mary Sue, and in his video about Season 1 of The Legend of Korra, he emphasizes all the bad stuff that happens to Korra, which I agree with, but he completely skips over the part where Korra is not being that bad. She's not being really good either. Like, she's not a standout character, but he skips over that part. And so, because of what he just presents in his video about Season 1, it appears that the Korra at her worst parts is Korra throughout Season 1. Now, Korra is not that good of a character in Season 1. Like, don't get me wrong. She's not that good of a character, but all that stuff that makes people hate Korra is not everywhere in Season 1. I wouldn't even say it takes up the majority of Season 1. It's like her intro, and it's also her intro into Season 2, but I'm going to stay away from Season 2 right now. I want to stay in Season 1. So, yeah, I would say my opinion about Korra being a Mary Sue in Season 1, yeah, I no longer feel that way. I do think she has very, very heavy Mary Sue moments. But whether you're going by the traditional definition or you're going by the definition I suggested, she doesn't really meet either of those definitions. So, Just a Robot's probably going to have words with me because I made that whole fuss about that. But Season 1, well, let's look at the characters. Bolin and Mako, I don't like them. I don't like Bolin and Mako. I think it was ER who said that Bolin is a flanderized version of Sokka. I 100% agree with that. Bolin is just, he doesn't have enough personality to him. He's just a funny guy. Mako is boring. Mako is really boring. Asami, I don't think Asami even has a character. Like, she's the best thing I can do with Asami is that she's dealing with her father throughout the show. That's the best thing I can give Asami for the most part. Tenzin is like the best character in Season 1, maybe throughout the show. He has a distinct personality. He has lessons that he himself has to go through. I don't always like his lessons. A lot of times I feel the lessons they give Tenzin are forced. But he has those he has to go through. He's shown that he's like affected by what happened not in The Last Airbender, but what Aang's generation did to him. They go more into that as the seasons go on, but I might as well summarize it now. Tenzin was going to be the last Airbender once Aang died. It was going to be Tenzin and whoever the Avatar was. So Aang unknowingly Aang put all this pressure on Tenzin, or maybe it was knowingly, but Aang put all this pressure on Tenzin that he had to continue a legacy. And it really shows through Tenzin. I get really upset because Tenzin, as a master airbender, should have mastered things like patience, and they make him the most impatient person, other than Korra. But, yeah, so those are the base characters. Oh, Lin. Lin is also there. I don't have qualms with Lin, but I would like to enjoy Lin more. Lin is a bit too far in the stubborn department on a lot of parts. And of course, there's Amon. There's Amon. Amon I loved until I found out who he really was. I think he had a great... This is how I always felt about Amon. I thought Amon was a great villain. He had a great setup. And then once they revealed who he was, which didn't make any sense, I felt all that was just thrown out the window. Like Amon was. I'm freaking hilarious. Let's read some of y'all comments. My whole problem with Avatar: Last Airbender and Korra is that I wanted too much more, and I personally think that Avatar: Last Airbender suffers from the way more, mostly because I expected way more. Well, Avatar: Last Airbender, I don't know how you could have expected more from it. I expected certain... When I first watched Avatar: Last Airbender, I expected certain things from it, and I didn't immediately get those things, so I was turned off from it. When I came back, I did get those things. My thing with Korra as a character is that there was definitely some interesting stuff there, so did every other character, but it felt like to me that something wasn't connecting right. For me with Korra, the reason I constantly argued that Korra wasn't Mary Sue was because that it felt to me she was an insert for the writers, which is, at its core level, that's what a Mary Sue is. You know, even Mary Sue's are like perfect and whatnot, they go against authority and whatnot, but at their base level, they are an insert for the writers to an unfair degree. The writers want to push whatever lesson they're trying to teach, whatever thing they're trying to say, even if that thing is, I'm amazing, they're trying to push that through their story, and they forcibly push it. That's why Korra felt to me like a Mary Sue, because in the first 3 episodes, we see her rebelling against all these people who are older, who are wiser, and the story says she's right to do that. Like, I get so heated when at the end of the first episode, Korra tells Tenzin that I've seen the city and it's way out of whack or totally messed up, whatever she says. And I'm like, Korra, you barely saw any part of the city. And Tenzin's just sitting there like, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. You can't see me doing it, but I'm stroking my beard. He's like, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. Yes, Avatar Korra, you are wiser than your years let on. I'm like, come on, no, she doesn't need to be in the city. She has clearly shown she does not fit in this environment. She has caused chaos. Now, do I think they should have kept her out of the city to begin with? No. There's a lot of retconning in the later seasons of why they do stuff, but it was initially just a stupid idea for the White Lotus to keep Korra out of civilization. She's the Avatar. She needs to know how to people. Also, probably my most hated moment is when Korra defies Tenzin about everything in airbending. Like, she's not patient at all. And then she goes to pro bending and she gets the steps. I'm like, this is teaching a very, very disruptive lesson. Like, even if pro bending is what Korra needed, Tenzin, as the airbending master, story structural wise, should have been the one to see it. But they wanted to show you how awesome Korra was, so instead they had her discover it by herself. I think Avatar in general has had some issues with masters. I've seen it before, but I think at least the first series respected a lot of their masters. A lot of them, not always. They painted Korra with shades of Mary Sue from her very first introduction scene. They show her as a toddler bending water, fire, earth with no teaching. Oh yeah! I'm going to skip that part. That is something we really need to go over, because I've had arguments upon arguments with people about this. Korra, at the age of, I think it was 4, could bend 3 of the elements. She could bend earth, water, and fire. She didn't master them. She didn't master any of them, but she was bending them really, really well. This is the series, the entire series, biggest flaw is that it doesn't continue a lot of the themes that Avatar: The Last Airbender did in regards to continuity and consistency. And people will say, well, it's its own show. No, 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 no. It is a continuation. It is expected. It is a sequel. It is expected to continue the story of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is expected to be of similar quality to Avatar: The Last Airbender. And Korra is the first person that we know of who can not only bend an element, like knows she can bend that element, and is able to do it really quickly. She does it with 3 elements. 3. Aang was an airbending prodigy. He was really good at waterbending, and while he wasn't good at controlling it, he was also really good at firebending. He never accidentally waterbend or factors come into play. If you want to tell me she's naturally good at one of them and can do it by accident, I can believe that. Like, Enner, the mysterious Mr. Enner came out with this story. He's like, what if Korra accidentally firebent while she was trying to waterbend because she was just really bad at waterbending? And I'm like, that makes so much more sense to the Avatar world. That Korra, somebody who's very physical, fire is the element of will. You want to get things done. You want to spread your influence. Korra embodies that. Like, it makes sense that fire is her signature element. She wants to get things done, and it would make so much sense if she struggled with water, because she does have a problem with change, which is water's emotion. It makes 0 sense that she learned how to bend 3 elements at age 3 without proper guidance from a master. Yeah, and she doesn't even do a little bit like, oh, I'm gonna try, and then she just, like a spark comes out or something, which probably would have been more interesting to see. She comes in, I'm the Avatar, you gotta deal with it, and then she flawlessly bends 3 elements to her will. I say 3, but I don't recall seeing her bend water in that scene. Like, it's established she can bend water in that scene, but I don't recall seeing her doing it. I think when the guy's wardrobe gets put out, I think he bends the water. I don't think Korra does that. But it is established that at the age of 3, she knows how to bend all 3. So that makes absolutely no sense. And that is the first of many examples of Korra, the show Korra, just blatantly ignoring Avatar. And that's one of probably the main, maybe not the main, but one of the main reasons that Avatar really sunk in with people, because people would rewatch Avatar over and over because it was so good, and they would see that this thing in episode 1 plays a part in this other thing in episode 10. The continuity was so good. It made mistakes. The show made mistakes, but the continuity and the consistency were so good. You could begin to connect the dots very easily. It was brilliant storytelling. She bends snow? Okay. Alright, I just don't recall. I always see the water hop onto the guy's robe, and the guy waves his hand when that happens, so I always think that's him bending the water. But yeah, that part, that concept ticks me off. I didn't really think about Korra bending 3 elements when I first saw it. Like, I kind of noticed it, but I let it slide. But there are other things that just really, really got under my skin. So anyway, continuing on, season 1. I always liked pro bending. I think this is gonna have to be a guilty pleasure of mine, because I like when a fantasy genre introduces a sport. Like, that's specific. If you hand me a fantasy genre and there's a sport in it, like, that's a bias of mine. I just really like that. And I love getting involved in the pro bending. But as critics have explained, pro bending doesn't have anything to do with the plot except getting Korra to learn airbending stances, which ultimately does not lead Korra to understanding airbending. So again, pretty pointless. It also introduces her to Mako and Bolin, but she didn't need to play pro bending to meet them. So one thing Enner said in his video was for the record, after I was done, I've watched a lot of Legend of Korra videos. After I was done with Legend of Korra, I went and rewatched a good chunk of them. One thing Ender said in his video that I at first disagreed with was that the rules were not firmly established. Like, I thought I knew the rules just from watching the show. I thought I understood pro bending pretty well. When I rewatched it this time, Korra's team lost a match without getting knocked out, and I was like, wait, how did that happen? And there were some parts that were really confusing. Tenzin says, come on, ref, that was an illegal headshot. He could be talking about the fact that there were rocks in the water, or he could just be talking about that they hit them in the head. They're not supposed to aim for the head. But in a tiebreaker match, Korra specifically wins the match by hitting him in the head. So yeah, I have to agree with Enter. It is really confusing. That pro bending is really confusing. I still have a weakness for it. I fell in love with pro bending when I first saw it, but I do have to agree objectively, it's not explained very well. It's actually very confusing. Pro bending doesn't make sense because it's 3 rounds and you can win 2 of them but lose the 3rd and lose the overall match, which makes the first round pointless. Family Feud used to do that. I think they changed the rules, but for a long time that's how Family Feud was. A personal opinion, but it didn't really make sense when it was revealed that Aang was somewhat negligent towards 2 of his kids. Yeah, that's season 2. I will get to that, but if I don't remember it, remind me when we get to season 2. I'm trying to stick to season 1 right now. But continuing with season 1, the Metal Benders, yeah, they eventually fixed the Metal Benders outfits. You know, I could see a lot of the rule of cool with season 1. I really could. Perhaps Korra learning with pro bending is about showing that not everyone learns the same way and traditional way. Yes, it was. It's not, but it's not about the message that I have an issue with. A lot of times with Korra, it's the execution. Because Korra, if Tenzin, like, here's what I would have liked to have happened. I would have liked that Korra wasn't allowed to pro bend because Tenzin did think pro bending was an honorable way to bend. Then Tenzin sees that Korra is struggling, and maybe he has a chat with his wife. He says, "Why is it so hard for Korra to learn?" And you know, they kind of hint that Tenzin, maybe your teaching isn't working. And Tenzin says, "What do you mean? I've taught 3 kids how to airbend." And his wife looks at him and says, "Yes, but they were born airbenders. They're nice." Goes to look at pro bending. Maybe even goes with Korra and says, "Hey, maybe you could just use some time out." And he says, "Yeah, I don't like pro bending, but I think you could use just something away from this." And then Tenzin notices that the foot maneuvers are similar to what airbenders do, and that gets him involved. Like, I don't like when they take people who are supposed to be masters and make them look like chumps compared to students. Like, that's not an absolute. There are ways you can make that work. But to me, it gives off the vibe you're saying you want your character to look special. You want your character to look better than the person who has earned their position. And Avatar did this too sometimes. But yeah. That wouldn't characterize her as stubborn and independent, though. I mean, I didn't want her to be stubborn and independent. And, you know, that would... I think there are ways you could characterize her as being stubborn and independent, and it would work. Zuko was characterized as being stubborn and independent at times, and then the story flowed to show him that that wasn't a good thing. Like, Korra was stubborn and independent, and she was rewarded for it. Like, she was stubborn, and then she went back up, and she learned the footwork of airbending. So the show's basically saying she was good to be stubborn. She was good to not be patient with Tenzin. She was good to not do what airbenders are supposed to do and meditate. And it was good that she... Retroactively, it was good that she destroyed the airbending fan thing. And chi blockers make sense in a way that non-benders are constantly suppressed by the benders, so they want to learn the technique to defend themselves. Yeah, chi blockers come into... They're not like a bunch of chi blockers. I have no problem with there being more chi blockers, actually. There are certain techniques I don't mind there being more of. Metal bending, I don't mind there being more of. Because the only reason people couldn't metal bend was because they didn't think to bend the earth in the metal. Toph thought of it because she can only see through earth. So she's feeling these vibrations in the metal. She literally has no choice but to bend the things around her. And the only earth around her are the chunks of earth in the metal. Like, Toph's bending metal is one of the best this person is special and figured out something impossible moments I've ever seen. It is so easy to mess that up because it to the audience it could just make your character look like, oh, you were trying to make them look cool. Toph was put in such a perfect situation to make that happen, and I felt she earned it. I felt she earned that moment. And I don't mind metal benders being more common because if you know now to sense the earth in the metal, you can do it. Lightning bending should not be common because lightning bending was only reserved for firebenders who were both powerful and at peace with themselves. You had to be perfectly in sync with yourself. The three lightning benders were the Fire Lord, Azula, and Iroh, the three most powerful firebenders in the world. Like, those were the lightning benders. It should not be this average Joe. Well, it's fine being an average Joe, but it should not be a group of average Joes. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like they were trying to do something similar as how Korra started to learn waterbending, but they knew they couldn't do the same thing. What's your take on Bolin suddenly learning how to lava bend? Oh, I will get to that. That's season 3, though. We're sticking to season 1 for now. Here, let me put that up here. Instead of this question, how do I edit you? Okay, there we go. Alright, yeah. Topic. Season 1 of Legend of Korra. I guess I should say book 1. Be proper. Book 1. Okay. So yeah. What else? I don't mind the 1920s aesthetic. Yeah, it is pretty far out there that technology would advance that fast, but I think you can suspend your disbelief on that notion. I was actually pretty excited to see the Avatar in a setting that's closer to our environment than the rural stuff, so I was perfectly fine with that. I think you can just suspend your disbelief and that works out all fine and dandy. What else? There's, I forget his name, but the waterbender counselor. There's him. I didn't really find him too interesting. I think he could have been a really interesting character, but I didn't really find him too interesting. Okay, alright, so nothing's coming to mind right now, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the finale, because, oh my goodness, I have so much problems with the finale. First of all, like I said, they ruined Amon's character by turning him into a waterbender. They could have just kept him as a special energy bender or something like that, and he would have been fine. Or if he had been a waterbender, like if they had foreshadowed it, showed that he was tricked, like given hints that he was tricking people. How he bloodbends people makes absolutely no sense. That's another thing I almost forgot to talk about, the bloodbending. They just completely pulled that out of nowhere. And it's just like, we're just going to give somebody the random power. Oh, but it makes sense because Toph didn't know how to metal bend before, and then she invented it. Yes, but Toph did it by following the rules of the universe. That's why Toph's metal bending is so brilliant, because she does something impossible and new while still following the rules of the universe. Nobody in the world said you couldn't bend the earth elements in metal. Nobody, that was never established. It's just nobody ever thought to do it. They even foreshadow it in book 2 when the guy says, I bend the water around the vines. It's brilliant. But anyway, yeah. Bloodbending without a full moon. It's dumb and stupid and idiotic. I'm so mad that they decided to go with that. It's such a cheap cop-out. Just drinking some water. Is he loving or hating on Korra? Are you talking about the show? I'm just expressing my opinion on it. It's not really love or hate. There are elements that I love. There are elements that I hate. I think I've been more critical of it than I have been appreciative of it. But getting back to the finale, yeah, him being a bloodbender, bloodbending doesn't make any sense. Him revealing how he revealed himself doesn't make any sense. And then the biggest issue, first off, Iroh does nothing throughout this whole show. Like, nothing. General Iroh, and I'm talking about General Iroh Jr., not good old uncle. General Iroh Jr. does nothing throughout the show. It's like, season 1, comes for help, gets beaten, calls for booning, also gets beaten, tries to fly an airplane, okay, all he does is take down the mask and shoot a couple planes down. Season 2, wants to help Korra, gets told not to. Season 3, I don't even remember if he was in season 3. Season 4, they tell him to come at the very end after everything is over. Iroh does shockingly nothing, and he's voiced by Dante Bosco, so everybody's like hearing Zuko. Listen, I love Dante Bosco, he's a very talented voice actor, but his voice sounds like a kid. So it's great that he can voice someone like Zuko, but you cannot put him on a freaking grown man. It doesn't flow, especially when we know that voice. We recognize that voice. That's not pandering, that's like the opposite. But the thing that ticked me off the most, even when I first saw Legend of Korra and I liked book 1, the thing that ticked me off so hard was Korra learning to airbend. Oh my goodness, okay, so to refresh your memory, Korra gets her bending taken away, and he's about to do the same thing to Mako. Amon's about to do the same thing to Mako. Korra desperately punches the air, and air comes out of her fist, and she can airbend. Airbending is a defensive technique. The point of airbending is to avoid conflict. They even go into that in the show. Be the leaf. Dance around the thing. That's why Aang struggled so hard with earthbending, because earthbending required you to stand there and take it. Airbending was about avoiding conflict. It's the whole mentality of airbending. She learns airbending by punching the air. She's trying to firebend. Like, you can tell, she's trying to firebend. She punches the air, and that makes airbend. It makes no sense at all. At all. It annoyed me so much. And then, of course, there's the big Deus Ex Machina where Aang comes out of nowhere, even though Korra has absolutely no spiritual aptitude. And he just fixes Korra. Because, we can't have consequences. This is why a lot of people think Korra is a Mary Sue. Aang comes out of nowhere and fixes her problem for her. So yeah, that's season 1. I've had a lot of problems with season 1 for a while. I think my anger towards it has lowered now that I've seen that Korra is not unlikable throughout all of it, just like mostly the beginning. I'd argue it's most likely suffered from Nick not letting them plan things like they had in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Having a baddie a season is rather underwhelming in my opinion after something like that. I don't know what went on in the background. I know some things did go on in the background a couple of seasons, and that's what threw them off, but I don't know how true that is. To me, this is still a Mary Sue moment. It's definitely a Mary Sue moment. The ending of the series is definitely a Mary Sue. Korra is at a genuine low point in her life. She's not the Avatar anymore. The only thing she can do is airbend, which she sucks at. So, she's crying and whatnot. And Mako, being the genius that he is, I just remembered something. Let me finish my thought. Mako, being the genius that he is, decides to tell Korra right then and there that he loves her. That's a horrible timing to do that. And then Aang comes and fixes everything. And it doesn't even make sense because the dude blocked it with blood bending. So it's physical, it's not spiritual. Aang, when he bent things like that, it was bending the energy within someone. It wasn't bending their blood to block chi points. So it makes no sense for him to come in and fix everything. But the thing I completely forgot, everyone's favorite part of Korra, the romance. Oh my goodness. That is arguably Korra at her least likable. The whole love triangle thing. All of the romance throughout all of Legend of Korra, all of it sucks. Just all of the romance, not just season 1. All the romance throughout and give me 2 characters who are in love with each other, and I cannot stand it. I don't like Korra dating Bolin. I don't like Korra dating Mako. I don't like Korra dating Asami. I don't like Bolin dating. Oh, you know what? Actually, here was a fun one. Bolin dating, was it Eska? I think it was. That was a fun one. Also, I like Varric and Julie. I don't think it was properly earned, but Varric and Julie are fun characters. Okay, so not all the romance, but the romance that they love to put on the forefront, especially season 1, it's horrible. Which, so someone made the joke somewhere I saw. The joke is Zuko gets shipped. Zuko and Korra are talking to each other. Zuko says, "What? I've been shipped with everyone from Team Avatar?" And Korra says, "Haha, I dated everyone from Team Avatar." Oh man. I mean, people say that, it gets an excuse because it's more realistic, and more realistic does not equal more entertaining, nor does it equal more believable. So that to me is not an excuse, even if it is true. I wouldn't say it's true, but people have different experiences. Honestly, I just think they shouldn't have focused on it. It just makes Korra seem very, very unlikable. Every time they bring up the romance, specifically between Korra and somebody, every time that's brought up, it makes Korra look horrible. Absolutely disgusting. So I think that's all my thoughts with season 1 in general. The introduction to the Korra world, or to the Avatar world via the Korra generation. And that was where it was supposed to end initially. I will give it that. So one issue I have is that it's not really a continuing story, but you cannot really blame them. It was supposed to end, like, after every season they didn't know if another one was coming. So I will say though, there's not really a big Avatar moment that Korra has in this season. Like, at the end of Avatar Last Airbender and throughout the show, Aang would have these big Avatar moments where he would have to do really big bending. Korra never really gets that, and that's fairly interesting. Of course, come season 2. Team Avatar in real life would hate each other by the end, and again, I'm annoyed by how they call themselves Team Avatar every episode. It feels like, I mean, I'm fine with them calling themselves Team Avatar. That seems like a tradition that Aang has started. They're just the new Team Avatar. I'll sometimes joke around and call them Team Avatar, and I'll call the original Team Avatar like the Boomerang Squad or the Aang Gang, just to distinguish between them. But I'm fine with them taking up that mantle. They are Team Avatar. One thing of note that I do actually like is that Bolin and Mako, pro bending is supposed to be like a world thing. So Mako and Bolin are supposed to be 2 of the greatest benders in the world. I kind of like that and I kind of don't, because it means that 2 of the greatest benders in the world are put on Team Avatar's team. And that's what the original tried to do. They put Toph, who was the greatest earthbender, on Aang's team. I know she's tied with Boomy, but come on, she invented metal bending. But yeah, they put her on his team. They put Zuko, who was specially trained by Iroh, on his team. Katara to me was the only one who was a weird fit because they had to say she had great potential and then she mastered waterbending in a couple of months, or was it a couple of weeks? But yeah, they really like she went from noob to not just master but extreme master, doing these amazing water feats in just a couple of weeks, months. So she's the least believable to me. But yeah, when I was watching the first Avatar: The Last Airbender, I noticed that they were trying to put the greatest people on the planet on Team Avatar. I don't think Tenzin is considered a part of Team Avatar in Korra. Like when they say Team Avatar, they're usually talking about Korra, Bolin, Mako, and Asami. And I think that's a shame because Asami, again, I feel like Asami has no character throughout most of Korra. Like, she barely goes through anything. Don't get me wrong, she's there and she goes through stuff, but it doesn't feel very character building. So anyway, season 2. Season 2 is probably my least favorite season. Why? Because Korra is annoying throughout half the season. Goodness gracious. So quick recap. Season 2 is about Korra. She goes back home. It's about Korra. Duh. It's about Korra going back home. She goes back home to the south. She realizes that the spirits are out of whack, and they have been getting out of whack for the past good long time. She works with her uncle to open the portals to the spirit world so they can put things back in balance. She then later finds out that her uncle is actually trying to put things out of balance because there is a great evil in the spirit world that he's trying to release. And Korra is the opposite of this great evil. Korra has inside her the great good. Alright. And there's a battle with giant anime spirits. Anyway, so the biggest thing with this season that I absolutely detest is Korra. Korra herself. Even when I first saw season 2 way back in the day, Korra throughout the first 6 episodes is so annoying. And eventually she comes out and she says, yeah, I have been doing this stuff, but it's a lesson she should have learned in season 1 and she didn't. It's just, there's only so many times you can watch someone arrogant get away with being arrogant. And specifically what she does is there are 2 things she specifically does. One is these people who are higher ranked than her, whether in society or bending or whatever, they advise her, you shouldn't do this, and she says, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the Avatar. I've got to do something. That's Korra's motto. I'm the Avatar. I have to do something. Even if she has no idea what she's doing. She blows up at these people constantly. And it winds up making, Korra's actions wind up starting the Civil War. Korra's actions wind up leaving the portals open for Vaatu to escape. And the other thing she does is she's constantly getting angry at Mako for no reason. It makes no sense to me. Like, she gets mad at him for no reason. And I get what they were going with. They were trying to make her the stereotypical, quote-unquote, angry girlfriend. But it's just not fun to watch. That's the problem. It's not fun to watch. She goes to Mako and she says, what do you think I should do? And Mako says, well, here's some advice. And she says, what? Why are you taking someone else's side? So the next time she goes to Mako for advice, he says, well, I think you should follow your heart. Do what you think is best. What? That's horrible advice. How dare you give me advice? So she goes to Mako again. And he says, which one do you want? Because you keep getting mad at me and I don't know which one you want. And then she freaking blows up at him because, okay, so let me summarize this moment that I'm about to talk about. Korra wants the Republic's army's help. The president says he can't get involved with the Civil War. So he can't send his armies to support one side in the Civil War. Korra decides to undermine him and go to Iroh and ask for help. Iroh agrees because Iroh, despite being a general, even though he should be an admiral, despite being a general, has a good heart, and he says, well, we'll just go in that direction, and if we just happen to meet resistance, then we can help you. Mako hears of her plan and foils her, so she gets angry at him. And this is her excuse. I kid you not, because I was kind of I was kind of upset with Mako too, but I was like, it's his job. Like, he's in a tough spot. But this is her excuse. She says, I'm the Avatar. It's my job. I have to do something. This is a conversation she's having with Mako. She's saying it's her job as the Avatar. She has to do something. I'm like, you are in a police office talking to a police officer. You're getting angry at him for doing his job, but your excuse is that it's your job. You have to do something. They made me completely jump to Mako's side because I was actually leaning towards Korra. I wasn't completely there because, again, Mako was just doing his job, but I was leaning towards Korra being in the right. And then they just made me completely jump on Mako's defense there. Did we already establish that the romance in Korra is not good? Yes, we did. Everything with Korra and romance is just not good. Aang, 112, was in many ways more mature than Korra at 17. Well, I would say that, Aang a lot of times had humility. And a lot of times with kids, they do have humility. Korra, they made Korra the stereotypical rebellious teenager. And that is, for me personally, that's one of the worst stereotypes. I cannot stand the stereotypical rebellious teenager in stories. I hate it with such a burning passion. Avatar never had those stereotypes. I'm very shocked because a lot of the main cast are teens and kids, but they were never just straight up rebellious. Like, get the point of most of season 2, story-wise, lore-wise, or character-wise. The point of season 2 was to retcon a lot of stuff. Season 2 did a lot of retconning. I actually said this on Twitter. I said I love Avatar 1's story. To me, that's when season 2 gets entertaining, when Avatar 1 comes out. But it does a lot of retconning. Normally, I care about that more than anything. But Avatar 1, like, if Avatar 1 was its own story, if it wasn't a part of the last Airbending series, it would be a fantastic story. But because it's already a part of the last Airbending series, the last Airbender series, because it's attached to that, it's not very good because of all the mistakes it makes with continuity. And again, this is ER did a video on this, and I was actually very shocked because I already knew Juan did a lot against continuity. But when I saw ER did a video on beginnings, I was like, there's no way I'm going to agree with ER on this subject. Because I love beginnings. I love watching it. It's so much fun. And he's talking smack about it. I finally found the Korra video that ER made that I'm going to heavily disagree with. And he made so many good points. Like yeah, yin and yang had already been pre-established. And their concept of yin and yang in Avatar 1's story is very basic compared to what they had in the original Avatar: The Last Airbender. And what they did with spirits goes completely against what Avatar: The Last Airbender had. And how they portray bending is completely different than what the last Airbender had. Like, yeah, one destroys so much continuity. And again, that was something I knew when I first saw it. I just let it slide because it was such an entertaining story. But ER, when I went and watched his video, brought it to the surface. I'm like, yeah, I don't really have a defense for it other than I just like it. It's a really fun story. I only made it halfway through season 2, yeah, because the first half of season 2 is so obnoxious. I think that Aang did what he thought was right, but also made sure to make the morally correct decision. Yeah. And that's kind of a split of the three. Katara always did what she thought was right. Sokka always did what he thought was the morally correct decision. Aang was the in-between. He struggled with both. Korra's so hot-headed because the White Lotus built her up to be amazing, while Aang was an airbender first and the Avatar last. It's dumb to compare Korra and Aang because it's literally incomparable. They are comparable characters. Like, they're both the Avatar. They're both the protagonists of two shows that are sisters to each other. Not sisters, no, one is a sequel. It is, people have absolutely every right to compare Aang to Korra. Now, I will say this. Somebody said this on, I think it was on Twitter. It was a very good statement. Avatar: The Last Airbender is about a person learning to become the Avatar. The Legend of Korra is about the Avatar learning to become a person. And I think that is 100% true, and I think that's a fantastic concept. But the execution was not the best in Korra. Korra's execution makes a lot of people dislike her character. Because Aang, you take Aang's character, what's one of his characteristics that people might not like? The fact that he runs away from his problems. That was what started Aang's journey. He ran away from his responsibilities. And that's not a good thing to do. But why did he do it? Well, because he's young. He's very, very young to the point where he can't handle the stress they put on him. Did the show excuse him for it? No. The show made him pay those consequences. Because you ran away, Aang, your people were left without an avatar. Now there are no more airbenders. You are the last one. Despite him being a child, the show did not treat him like a child. The show did not say, it's okay, it'll get better or something like that. Well, it did say it'll get better. It said you have to work through this. You have to realize that there is other love out there. But when Korra makes a mistake, Korra doesn't pay for it like she should most of the times. Not until season 3, and that's why I actually like season 4 a lot, despite season 4 having some ridiculous stuff. I do like season 4 because it shows Korra's consequences, but we'll get there when we get there. Here in season 2, we're still at Korra is the Avatar, therefore she's destined to do great things, and we're going to keep saying that until it becomes true. And I think that is absolutely incorrect to say you can't compare Korra to Aang. You shouldn't compare Korra to Aang. You absolutely should. Aang got compared to Roku. Aang got compared to a bunch of past avatars, Kyoshi, because they're similar people put in similar situations. They have different mindsets, they have different circumstances, but they are absolutely comparable. That's why at the end of Avatar, at the end of The Last Airbender, Aang consulted all his past lives on what they would do, and they all said they would do this, and Aang was at his wit's end because he didn't want to do that. But yeah, season 2 introduces yin and yang. It's basically, so the Avatar state has become, it is now explained. And I do like it. Again, I do like it, but I think it goes against continuity. I like that the Avatar is, okay, so I always thought the white spirit was yin, but ER says the white spirit is actually yang. You know, I'm talking about yin and yang. It makes sense that the Avatar would be the good part of the yin and yang balance cycle. Because the Avatar is always trying to keep balance. I thought to myself, what if there was an evil Avatar? Like, why does every Avatar want to keep balance? Like, what makes them do that? And it's because they do have an innate good in them. I like that concept, again, even though it goes completely against continuity. And I like the concept that there would have been a bad Avatar. So, yeah. But it does get to ridiculous levels. To me, one of the most ridiculous levels is the Avatar state is nerfed. I actually think the Avatar state got buffed. But I'll get to that in a second. One of the most ridiculous things of season 2 to me was Jinora. Jinora is so spiritually gifted, it's disturbing. Because Aang was also spiritually gifted. Aang was very good at doing spiritual stuff, that he did it by accident. Jinora acts like she grew up in the spirit world. Like she meditates for the first time, goes into the spirit world. Aang had to find freaking spiritual places to go into the spirit world, and then to talk to Roku, he had to specifically go to the Fire Nation, despite the fact that Aang is a spiritually gifted person. And if you don't want to use Avatar: Last Airbender logic, you can still use Legend of Korra logic, because Aang was an airbender. He was an airbending master at the age of 12. And Legend of Korra says in order to be an airbending master, you have to be super spiritual, even though they let Tenzin be an airbending master. And he's never been to the spirit world. But Jinora acts like she grew up in the spirit world. Like, I had a argument with somebody about this, that I was saying she feels very Mary Sue-ish in how they treat her with the spirit world. Because she doesn't even have to try, she just gets it. And they're like, no, she studied off screen. Like, you see her with these books and how she's super smart. And I'm like, yeah, she's super smart and she studied, but so is Tenzin. Yeah, but she's not spiritual like Aang. Well, yeah, but even with Aang, who was super spiritual, it took him a good moment to get into the spirit world. Like, there were rules to getting in the spirit world. Like, the only time Aang meditated and easily got to, there were 2 times. One, when he went to the South Pole, he easily did it. And then in book 3, I think he was at a temple. But by that time, he had done it so many times, it was pretty easy for him to do. Jinora, this is her first time going to the spirit world, and she does it like that. And then when she's in the spirit world, she becomes this super powerful spiritual person who can navigate through the spiritual world with ease. Like, she becomes this super... she has a Super Saiyan form she becomes that helps Korra win the fight. I'm like, Jinora, how do you know how to do that? Like, how do you know how to be Super Saiyan, find Korra, power her up, get Rava out? Like, how do you know how to do all that? You just entered the spirit world, like, yesterday. I think it would be a nice idea, actually, to westernize that magic system regarding old Europe or whatever, but then better start off from scratch. You gotta talk about some. Legend of Korra is way too westernized with Eastern in terms of influences of, well, pretty much everything. I mean, if the original Avatar took a lot from Eastern concepts, so shifting over to Western, I think, would have been an interesting concept. She's like a goddess in the spirit world. I mean, like I said, it's like she grew up there. Like, she goes there, she knows how to do a bunch of stuff without really trying. The only thing that she had on her was that she couldn't find the portals. She didn't instantly know where they were. But here's an actual bigger problem with Jinora. So if you recap the story, Korra needs to go to the spirit world to close the portals, because that only the Avatar can do that. And she can't go to the South Pole because it's guarded. She can't go to the North Pole because it's guarded. So she has to go through the spirit world. She needs a spiritual guide, so she asks Tenzin, because Tenzin is the most spiritual person on the planet as far as she knows. But Tenzin can't do it. Jinora can. So Jinora and Korra both go to the spiritual world. As soon as they get there, they get separated because Korra does stupid stuff. So Korra has to make her way to the portals without Jinora. And she does, because Iroh helps her. She makes her way to the portals, and she's about to close them, but she can't because Jinora got captured. So Jinora, in regards to this whole getting Korra to the portals, served no purpose but to get Korra to open the portal instead of close it. Like, if Korra had went without Jinora, she would have won. It'd have been because freaking what's-his-face wouldn't have had another spirit to threaten. He can't threaten Korra because she's the only one who can open the portal. So, yeah. Eventually, Jinora does help Korra at the end by going Super Saiyan. But if Jinora had never came, the battle would have been over. So, like, story-wise, narratively speaking, Jinora was a plot device. A complete plot device. And it annoyed me when I realized that. Like, they immediately got separated. Jinora is basically a second Avatar. Pretty much. Like, her spirit form, she just, come season 3, she can do it like that. I like how that they explain how Iroh saw Aang in the spirit world with Jinora, because she sees spirits because of her spiritual power. I don't really remember that, so I'll take your word for it. They really dropped the ball with everything regarding the spirit world. They tried to redo the spirit world, and that's the problem. Avatar: The Last Airbender exists. It already did the spirit world. The spirit world was not a beautiful, fantastical place with these mystical creatures. It was a bleak and desolate place that reflected the world the Avatar lived in. Again, ER goes through this. The spirits back in Avatar: Last Airbender were mostly animal concepts, and if they weren't animals, it was usually because they were twisted or corrupted or something, or they were just flat out evil. But this one decided to be all fantastical and freaking Miyazaki and anime stuff. Maybe it would be interesting, but I think they already created more compelling, interesting stuff with their Eastern influences and switching retcons and stuff. I mean, I'm fine with them being experimental, but I don't like retconning when it's so super obvious that you're just rewriting the story. Like, work with the story you have. Don't rewrite it. Jinora was the Deus Ex Machina. Without her, nothing would work. Well, that's more of a MacGuffin than a Deus Ex Machina. She did Deus Ex Machina at the end, because she suddenly knew how to become Super Saiyan. Like that, it genuinely makes no sense. Like she's with Tenzin, she's with her aunt and her uncle, and she looks up, she's like, Korra's in trouble. I'll meet you guys on the other side. And she Super Saiyans up to Korra. I'm like, how the crap do you know how to do that? Like, where did this power come from? Legend of Korra, yeah. And I don't remember how old Jinora was, but I think she's now the youngest airbending master. It was Aang at 12. I thought she was like 8 or 9, but I don't know. She might have been like 10. She seemed younger than 12 to me. I'm not sure though. But yeah. Anything else about season 2? I still like Juan. I still like his story. You know, even in the beginning where he is clearly the bad guy, I think the show Emphas knows that he was clearly the bad guy in the beginning. Juan. In The Last Airbender, when Aang first meets Roku, he rides with his dragon, and Iroh, who got captured in season 1, sees them. Yeah, because the spirit world and the human world were originally connected. It was just like they're in more scientific terms, their molecules were not on the same plane or something. That was probably a horrible scientific explanation. Season 2 was crazy, but seasons 3 and 4 were much better. Well, we'll get to season 3. I do think season 2 was the low point because, you know, Korra turns into a giant anime battle thing. All right, so let's talk about the finale. So in the finale, Korra has to fight Vaatu and her uncle, and there's actually the animation. I don't think I'll ever complain about. Well, no, there are parts where the animation looks bad, but for the most part, the animation is done beautifully. I almost forgot to mention. Well, I didn't forget. I said it earlier. I do like the Bolin and Deska thing. I thought that was funny. But yeah, the ending. Korra has to fight her uncle. There's some awesome bending. She freaking hurls that dude back through the portal. I loved it. And she's her uncle, not her uncle, Vaatu gets freed, and she tries to fight Vaatu by herself, and she actually does a good job until her uncle comes back and fights her, and they manage to get Rava. And this is the part. This might be the thing that angers me most in Korra. It might be. Don't quote me on that. He destroys Rava, which essentially kills every other avatar. Korra got every other avatar killed. That, just thinking about that, ticks me off so much. Like, technically, Aang did it too, because Aang died in the Avatar state. But man, I hate that they did that. And it's kind of hard to be mad because it's a story-changing decision to kill them off like that. But Aang didn't even get any final words or anything. It's just gone. And all the avatars are just gone, and that's... Again, I'm not mad at them for making a decision like that, like a story-altering decision like that, but again, the execution just feels so... I don't like it. I don't like it. It's clearing the browser history. Oh, that made everyone mad. It made me sad when we first watched. I try not to think. Yeah, it's because, like, when you get really deep into a story, you gain a connection with these characters, and if they die respectfully, that's something you can deal with. When they die in a way that you feel dishonors what their character was, you really can't accept that. That's why a lot of people don't like The Last of Us 2. And Aang just disappearing, no speech, no nothing, and it's because of the action of someone else. Like, he did nothing to cause this. There's like an emptiness that you feel. Like, I know that should not have happened. And ultimately, you could probably say, because technically speaking, Korra fulfilled the Avatar's mission, it was time to start over. The whole 10,000 years with Rava, the whole point of that was to subdue Vaatu when he came back. But again, that's looking at it from an in-story reason. If you're looking outward, you're like, I don't want Aang to die because of Korra. I don't want to reset everything because of this. Like, we want Aang to be there for Korra. There is too little Aang in this show. I just realized freaking Roku was there for Aang. Why is Aang not there for Korra more? Like, I guess because she still has Katara. She still has Zuko doesn't even really guide her that much. She has Katara and Toph, but mainly Katara. To be fair, Korra not having anyone to easily bail her out anymore did wonders for her character. Yeah, but I would say but that's also something they do with the Avatar state that they messed up. What made they turned the Avatar state into a Super Saiyan. I have a fairly good memory when it comes to Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't remember the Avatar state being a Super Saiyan. What made the Avatar state so powerful was that it gave the Avatar knowledge of every Avatar in the past. They would also lose control of themselves, though, depending on their emotional state. But if they could control it, it gave them the knowledge of all past Avatars. So, and the concept of synergy exists. So when you have 10,000 years worth of Avatars all working together as one, no one can beat you. Like, no army can beat you. You not only know all four elements, you know every secret that every past Avatar has learned about those four elements. That's why Roku, this is going to come back later, but that's why Roku could lava bend, because he knew how to both fire bend and earth bend. And you can take that concept of your past lives and do so much with it. Once Korra loses connection to her past lives, the Avatar state should not have been a big deal. But again, it feels like they turned it into a Super Saiyan mode, because once she goes Avatar state, she's suddenly more powerful. She can do the whole flying in a tornado bit, and like everybody's more afraid of her. It doesn't really make sense to me. Aang couldn't control it properly, not until the final battle with Ozai could Aang control it. It's only because Korra sucks at being an Avatar that she can't get to them, because she sucks spiritually and her connection to Rava is ruined. I think they're still alive, but Korra can't get to them. That's possibility. I don't think so. Korra gets better at her spiritual stuff after season 2. Like, she can go into the spirit world at will after season 2. So she should have no trouble connecting to her past lives. I think they just legitimately are gone. And again, I don't like that. I don't like that. They made an entire episode of Aang not being able to control. Yeah, Aang can't control his spiritual. Aang could not control his Avatar state until Ozai. Until he fought Ozai. Once he fought Ozai, he had control over it. I think you technically know it, but it's such a massive collection of knowledge that you cannot grab everything at once. No? I think you can. No, I think you can. I think when you enter the Avatar state, it's everybody working at once. But you have to have proper control of your chi. This is why Korra kind of cheapens the Avatar state, because she just gained it because Aang was there, and Aang just basically possesses Korra. So unlike when Aang went into the Avatar state, he was always under extreme emotional distress until Ozai. Korra just some reason knows it. I never thought about that. How does Korra know the Avatar state? She just freaking knows how to do it. Like, and the Avatar state is a spiritual thing. Like, but she's just good at it. Like, yeah, it has to be Aang just showed her how to do it at the end of book 1. She's just good at it. Oh, man. Korra freaking learned the elements at like 8 years old or something. She's supposed to be informed at like 16, but I guess she accidentally bent a different element while young. The first time I saw it, I genuinely thought that they severed her connection from the past avatars for the sole purpose of nerfing the Avatar state, but it doesn't seem to have mattered. Yeah, that's the thing. The Avatar state does kind of feel somewhat nerfed, but it also feels buffed. Because Korra in her Avatar state does not seem as powerful as Aang in his Avatar state. That's partially because Aang's big thing was the big finale fight, so they had to go big all the way. But yeah, considering she doesn't have the knowledge of her past avatars anymore, like, you know, there was that whole thing a couple months ago. Who would win the fight? Aang versus Katara. Aang versus Korra. And now that I know that, like, now that I've seen Korra, even fully realized, I think Aang just has it, because Aang has the knowledge of 10,000 years worth of Avatar. Korra just has her own knowledge, and her own knowledge of being the Avatar is nowhere near as good as 10,000 years worth of Avatars who have been to the spirit world, lava bent, who, like, they've done so much. Weren't the Avatars before Aang able to go into the Avatar state? Yeah, and they could do it through Aang's body too if they possessed him. But Aang had to be in a very spiritual place, or a place relevant to them for them to possess him. He was possessed by Roku, and I believe he went upset with that. You know, at that point, that's season 3. We already know Korra is really good at bending stuff, so, you know, I don't know. It's again, metal bend. Every earthbender should be able to metal bend. I don't like that they're like, oh, only 1 in 100 earthbenders can metal bend. It's super rare. Every earthbender should be able to metal bend. Like, if you can feel the earth in the metal, you can do it. Aang spoke with past avatars more than Korra, so also that could make him better. Yeah, because Aang was a humble person. He was a learner. He was a student. Alright, so nobody told me to change the topic. I was on book 2 that whole time, and book 1 was just on the screen. So we're going to switch to book 3 now. We can still talk about past books, but I'm going to mainly be talking about book 3. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Alright, so book 3. Book 3 is actually the one I remember the least, but it's the most like Avatar. And I think that's why a lot of people like this one the most. Like, as far as I could see, book 3 is the most popular in the series. And I understand why. It is the most like Avatar. So Korra left the portals open for reasons. And so now there's like spiritual stuff going on in the world, and they try to sell it as just change, and change is good. I would say change is... Somebody said this, change can be either good or bad. I don't remember which season it was in though. But yeah, so airbenders just become a thing now. At first I did not like this. I was like, come on, airbending is a culture, it's a society, blah blah blah. But I was like, I mean, if they have the spirit of an airbender, like somebody who avoids trouble, somebody who's really good at dodging. I would have liked that to have been kind of addressed a little bit, because Kai had like the kind of airbending attitude. He even though he stole from people, he avoided like head-on conflict. And the main bad guy, whose name I can't remember, when he becomes an airbender, that's how he fights. He's constantly dodging. But yeah, so Korra gets banned from Republic City, so we can finally leave this place and go somewhere else. Because the last two books, the first book took place in the last two books took place in Republic City and the South Pole, so they didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, so there's the Red Lotus, these group of really talented benders who tried to kidnap Korra when she was young, which is basically them retconning the stupid decision to keep Korra hidden away. It's like, well, we gotta give them a good reason because it was really dumb. They retconned it to, it wasn't Aang doing it, it was Tenzin and Korra's dad, and then they retconned it to why they did it, because of the Red Lotus. Shady, do you know Hello Future Me? He actually come up with a great alternate story about the Airbenders. I do know Hello Future Me. I have not seen all of his videos yet, though. I just recently discovered him. But yeah, so Korra goes on a journey to find more Airbenders. And this is where Tenzin's arc comes into play, because he has so much pressure to continue the airbending legacy, and it was really annoying to me because Tenzin, I was like, Tenzin, you can't just yank people from their house just because they're airbenders. Like, but you know, that was his lesson. He was supposed to learn that it's their choice and blah blah blah. Jinora just keeps getting better with spiritual powers. Kai, I hope you enjoy Kai, because he's not going to be relevant next season. But yeah, new character Kai is introduced. He's an airbender. If this had been Avatar Last Airbender, Kai's time in the Earth Kingdom army would have been expanded upon, because that was a very good subplot that they had to abandon fairly quickly. Just Kai being, because you know, Jet had like what, 3 episodes of being brainwashed, I think it was, and there was a build up to that because he knew Zuko for a good 2 episodes. But yeah, so Kai is introduced, the Red Lotus is introduced. The Red Lotus are shown to be these very powerful benders who, by themselves, they're extremely dangerous to any bender. Together, they can take down pretty much anyone. The problem I had with this is that at this time, Korra is pretty much a trained avatar. So what are they gonna, like, the avatar is the most dangerous force on the planet. Like, I had to remind myself, oh, she's cut off from the other avatar, so she's not as dangerous. But the avatar state still works. So, like, it's kind of her job to take down these people. And people were like, Lynn was like, we got to get the avatar to safety. Like, the avatar is the protector. Like, if you want to be with her in case they attack, sure. But it's her job to bring balance to the world. It's her job to protect. Like, why are you making her run from criminals? Like, if they were threatening innocent people or threatening the queen, like they eventually did, yeah, sure, go protect that person. But a fully realized avatar, and I know she's not fully trained, you know, she hasn't completed all her metal bending and whatnot, but she's basically got the 4 elements down, and she's spiritually trained. So it's like, this is her job to take down these people. I was actually on Korra's side when she was saying, my job is to take down these people, like, why am I running from them? Azula's voice actress voiced Minhao, who was the water-bending Red Lotus. Yeah, that makes sense. She gave me a very Azula feel that whole time. I am not shocked by that at all. Korra seasons were too short for the content they covered. Yes, I agree with that so much. I just realized what is missing in my mind. It is the 2-part episodes. I'm not sure what you mean by that. How do you feel about Mr. Ender's review on Korra? I feel it was very fair. He only reviewed season 1, and he admitted that later seasons do fix some of these problems. Mr. Ender's videos they can come across as very whiny. That's not me trying to be insulting. I like Ender's videos, but they can come across to a lot of people as very whiny. I think his new avatar that he has is actually going to help with that, because his new avatar smiles. But I think his Korra video is fine. Korra was destined lose to lose to them, though. Well, she didn't really lose to them. They these smart ones. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. So the Red Lotus, they start attacking. The Red Lotus, they have to actually be smart. They can't just say, "Hey, Korra, you're an idiot. We're gonna manipulate you." Though they do that once when Korra goes into the spirit world, and Korra has to, it's not just power being thrown around. I think that's what makes it interesting to a lot of people. It's not this super powerful bad guy. It's somebody a team that's really powerful, but they still have to strategize. And freaking Aang's kids get time to bend. Like, I want to see the daughter of Katara doing some water bending. Although clearly she's not as good, but that's within the story, considering she did a lot of world traveling instead of a lot of fighting. But yeah, Korra decides eventually to go after these people. This is when we get to, we get to meet the metal bending city of Toph's other daughter. Oh, I felt Lin. I felt Lin so much in that episode. It's just her younger sister was just screwing up constantly, and like, she did her job as a police officer, and Toph got mad at her. And I was like, oh man, I've been there. I have been there. But yeah, after all that, they actually do catch Korra. Like, they immobilize her and whatnot, because they have people throughout the world who do believe in their cause. It's another story about trying to change the world for the little man. This was in season 1 as well. And Korra winds up going after him, and she finds him in the spirit world. Like, I'm skipping a bunch of parts, but she eventually finds him in the spirit world, and he tricks her into just staying and having a conversation with him. And while she gets captured, she winds up getting captured by the Queen instead, the Earth King Queen, because she's enemies with her. And this guy just decides, you know what, I'm going to kill the Queen. I'm sick and tired of this. He just kills the Earth Nation Queen. I could not believe they went through with that. Because Avatar killed people, but it was always off screen. The only on-screen kill was Jet. And even then, they made it very confusing, because they didn't want it to be on screen, because it's a children's cartoon. They freaking killed the Queen, but he wouldn't say it. He would not say she's dead. They would say the Queen's reign is over. And he says, there's only life, but with me, there is only... I'm like, is he going to say death? He says, darkness. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're freaking killing her in front of me, and you can't say the word death? Like... But yeah, he flat out killed that Queen. The Queen ate Bosco. Yeah, nobody's going to miss her. I think that Bolin learning how to lava bend was kind of nonsense. Lava bending itself is nonsense, okay? Avatar showed, Avatar The Last Airbender showed, what's his name? Roku lava bend. And if you've ever seen Avatar Extras says Roku can lava bend. Lava bending is a mixture of fire bending and earth bending. So it makes sense that the Avatar can do it, because the Avatar knows how to do both. I imagine a team of earthbenders and firebenders could also do it. Freaking this guy comes out of nowhere. He can lava bend. It's a sacred. It's a type of earth bending. It's just earth bending. It's not fire bending anymore. And I'm like, that's a retcon, but okay, I guess it kind of makes sense. But how come he could just create lava? Like, why can he just make it? That's a specific type of heat bending, because you're bending the earth and heating up its molecules, and heat bending is fire bending. He should not be able to do this unless he's an Avatar. And then Bolin, just out of nowhere, is just special enough to do it. It's like, oh, come on, the power creep in this show. Oh, it skyrockets so hard. So now lava bending is special, and if there's ever a sequel to The Legend of Korra, there will be lava benders everywhere. Because they don't know how to power creep. Korra is textbook definition of a Mary Sue character. I said earlier, I disagree with that. I used to think that season 1 Korra was a Mary Sue, but I actually disagree with that heavily. Korra goes through enough low points and enough where the story just doesn't cater to her that I can't call her a Mary Sue. Melting earth is like melting ice, I guess. Yes, but I mean, I guess that does make sense, but again, it's a retcon because lava is so hot, it's akin to fire. It's past fire. Well, not all fire. Could you say that? I mean, fire is a type of plasma, I believe. Anyway, lava is so hot, it's at that level. So, and no past earthbender has shown to do this. This guy just comes out of nowhere and decides he can lava bend. I think if Toph did it, I think if Toph did it, I would probably not have a problem. I remember the Toph Katara fight in mud. Yeah, it's like water, ice, and steam bending. A lot of people are trying to defend it in the chat. The problem is, I specifically saw in Avatar extras that only the Avatar could, well, not the Avatar, but it took a combination of earth and fire. Like, Avatar Extra specifically said that it takes a combination of earth and fire bending to bend lava. And then I clicked in my head, oh, it makes sense that the Avatar can do it, because the Avatar can earth bend and fire bend at the same time. They're the only one who can do it. They both were only using the right bending. Toph was using rocks and Katara was using the water from the mud. Mud bending actually doesn't justify lava bending. Because, first of all, the type of lava bending they're doing is not just moving the lava. Bolin actively creates lava, so he's heating up the molecules in the rock. This has never been shown to do it, but he can do it, and it's supposedly rare, even though if we're gonna akin it to freezing and melting water, that means that any earthbender should be able to do it, not some rare person. But the mud bending doesn't work because you can bend things if they have that element that you're bending on them. You can water bend something if it has water on it. You can earth bend something if it has earth in it. Lava bending is not the same thing. Lava bending is just pure earth. It's just very, very heated earth. Like I said, fire. Fire is the source of heat. Like, I always thought of fire benders as more of heat benders, and they just bend so hard it eventually combusts into fire. Look, they messed up. That summarizes Legend of Korra perfectly. Marco was right there the first time. Yeah, that's something I said too, Pistols. Oh my goodness. That's exactly what I said. I was like, this would have been awesome if both Bolin and Mako bent at the same time and the lava moved, and they were like, oh, we can both do this together. I was like, that makes so much more sense than just Bolin being able to do it. But Bolin couldn't metal bend, and they wanted to say he was special, so they had to give him a special snowflake sticker, and he became a special snowflake. I'm talking about a lava bender. Oh man. But Toph knew about the existence of lava bending as well. When did Toph know about the existence of lava bending in Avatar: The Last Airbender? I know I'm not shocked to hear she knew about it in Korra, because she mastered seeing the world through the swamp, which is really weird because I guess Toph just becomes more spiritual in Korra, because the tree allows you to see the world by connecting to its spirit. Toph sees things through vibrations of the earth, specifically the earth. It's specifically through the earth, so I'm not sure how she can see through the tree, unless she's just somehow found a way to combine it with her seismic sense. Like, if you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, there is not one point in time where Toph can see when she's disconnected from the earth. Lava is liquid earth by definition. So by that definition, airbenders can freeze the air whenever they feel like it. They can make it really cold. The thing is, lava molecularly is not as stable as water. water is very stable. That's why it can freeze and steam so easily. To say that it's akin to doing it, I don't think is proper. And again, I would have accepted it if it wasn't already part of the Avatar canon that it required firebending and earthbending. And that to me makes sense. Because like I said, firebending is mostly heat bending. But anyway, getting back to it. So the Red Lotus, they do wind up capturing Korra eventually, because they get to the airbenders and they threaten the airbenders, and I don't know why they want to kill the airbenders. Like, they don't hold up their end of the deal for some reason. I don't know, maybe they just didn't trust Korra, which they shouldn't have. But they wind up capturing Korra, and this is the part that I'm drawn on a blank here. Oh, I gotta check my subs. Bending and shut up. I didn't know this is playing in the background this whole time. I wonder if my computer's lagging. Where is he? My subs. Oh, this is to look up a name. This is what Phantom Strider. Jeez, I cannot remember his name for some reason. This is what Phantom Strider always refers to when he's talking about Korra and why she's a great character. Where they poison her with the mercury, and she has to hold in her avatar state. Okay, I'm starting to read some of y'all comments. I'm understanding him. Why is it only created more airbenders? Yeah, why did it only create more airbenders? I didn't even think of that. Why didn't he create more earthbenders, or more firebenders, or more waterbenders? Why specifically airbenders? Oh man. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, say I would not agree. I would rather say that the surrounding temperature of the Earth is within the range of the boiling temperature of water and whatnot, but not Earth lava. Yeah, I never thought of that. But yeah, Korra gets the mercury in her body, and it's poison. Looks very, very painful. And their plan is to push her into the Avatar state. Just listen to this. Their plan is to poison her so they can push her into the Avatar state so they can then kill her. Okay, if they had said the poison will eventually kill her, fine. But they didn't say that. That is eventually what they expect to happen. But that's not what they said. It was so they could kill her. I'm like, you want her to go into her Super Saiyan form, in which she'll be able to break out, which she does. Like, once she goes into the Avatar state, she breaks out of her confinement. But what winds up happening is the first actual Avatar fight. Despite this being season 3, and them having 2 villains. Like, I wouldn't mind this if the story was continuing, but because the story's broken up, this is the first actual Avatar fight, where Korra Super Saiyans up into Avatar state, and she uses the elements to fight her opponent. Also, the dude can fly, and that's dumb, but Korra avatars up into her opponent, into herself, into her Avatar state, and fights the dude using the elements like an Avatar would. The poison eventually gets to her, and yeah, mercury is liquid earth. Mercury is liquid metal, so if it has chunks of earth in it, sure. But again, I don't know how stable mercury is. Again, with the lava thing, to emphasize, the main problem I have with it is that the show specifically said lava itself requires an earthbender and a firebender. And to me, that makes sense because it's heat and earth together. It's not so much that it's liquid earth. I think they could bend liquid earth, and I don't have a problem with them bending mud, bending mercury, etc. It's that lava itself is also heat. It's unstable. I think using airbending to fly makes sense if you do it like how Aang did it. You surround yourself with air. Him just jumping off and flying like he's a Saiyan, it looked nonsensical compared to what we've seen. Like, why wouldn't Aang be able to do stuff like that? And it wasn't strictly because of airbending. He said it was because he let go of all material things. It specifically happened because his girlfriend was his last material thing. As soon as she died, he was able to do it. Also, her death. Oh my goodness. I was caught off guard with that. Jeez, it came so suddenly. I wish instead of Korra, we got a spin-off TV show of After the 100-Year War to see the build-up of new cities. I love Toph and Katara and the books. Yeah, I don't know why, but the people feel like there always has to be a show about, like, kids learning their powers instead of just adults going through stuff, but whatever. Mako and Bolin could have made a tag team through lava bending. I thought so too. I felt that too. The flying was a decent idea in theory, but they did not stick the landing in the execution. I see what you did there. Well, it's just how it looks. It looks too simple. Like, I know airbenders can bend with their mouth. When airbenders glide, they are bending. They, I don't know. I'm not sure how they're bending because airbending is very limb related. They can still bend with their mouths. Like, airbenders and firebenders can still bend with their mouths. But yeah, the flying thing just looks Dragon Ball Z. It looks like power creep. That's all it looks like. Like, they wanted to make this guy look really cool. Her mind got blown. Mercury is the only metal in the periodic table that is at a liquid state in normal temperature, as in 20 degrees. Yeah, so that makes sense. I guess that's why I didn't question it when I saw it. But yeah, Korra then goes through this agonizing pain. She works with the airbenders to defeat this guy. The earthbenders finally do that thing where they imprison the guy once he touches the ground. I just keep wondering why they don't try to do that more often. I like the gliding suits too. I think that was a natural progression of the gliders. And then Korra she almost dies. She almost gets the air sucked out of her and the mercury killing her. But the metal benders are there. They bend the metal out of her body, but she's crippled pretty much. I was shocked that they ended the season on crippling though. Also, this random soldier who's not important at all, I promise you, saves Korra's dad's life and then gives him her name. This is like episode 12. You're introducing a new character in episode 12. I saw that and I was like, okay, she's probably a bad guy. She didn't turn out to be a bad guy, so I was like, okay, she's probably going to be very, very pertinent in season 4. So yeah, season 3 is a lot of people's favorite, not mine. Mainly because I still feel like there's a lot of retconning going on. That Azula girl who bends water, how does she bend water? I was watching her and her legs were not... Like, when Toph bends Earth, she doesn't move her arms because she's just that good. She just moves her feet and other body parts. So if Toph ever got serious, she'd probably move her arms. But that girl with water for arms, like, if she was moving her legs to make her arms do that stuff, I would think that's awesome. But there were moments where I was watching her legs, she wasn't moving them, and she was still bending the water. I was like, how is she doing that? Is she using her head like Boomy? Like, how? You have to be able to move to bend. And water benders, unlike unlike air and fire, they can't just use their mouths. So... y'all sure you don't just hate Korra because of season 2? That's a big reason. Korra in season 2 is probably the biggest reason why I originally did not like the show. I had the same reaction. I even forgot who she was in season 4. Season 3 was the less horrible, but still pretty bad. I think season 3 would stand on its own. Again, a lot of Korra falls apart because it just ignores Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was bendingception. She bent water with her water arms. And how's she bending the water arms? I shade I didn't really enjoy Korra. The first two seasons for me were very hard to sit through, but that's partially because I had already seen them. Season 3 was a lot more fun. And now we're at season 4. Season 4. Oh, let me switch to it. Book 4, I will definitely say, like, a lot of people I've seen, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but people, there's a good chunk of people I've seen that say book 3 is the best, or, yeah, book 3 is the best, and then book 4 still goes downhill because there's a giant kaiju mech. And I say, to me, book 4 was the most enjoyable. I had the most fun with book 4, and the reason being is because Korra seems like a genuine person with weaknesses. She went through some seriously traumatic events, and it affects her all throughout book 4. And I had so much more of a fun time. Like, that's how Aang starts off. Aang starts off being distraught by the knowledge that he's the Avatar, and it's enjoyable to watch him work past that. And he gets even more problems when he firebends Katara. Now that's something that he doesn't come to fruition with until book 5. But yeah, the show is average overall, but when you take The Last Airbender into account, it becomes bad. Yeah, because it's a serious downgrade, and you know what they could have done. Shady, that's my name. Have you seen Kay and Skittles reveal the political themes in this show? No, I haven't. And somebody asked me if what did I think of Lily's review. I haven't seen Lily's review. I'm assuming you're talking about Lily Orchid. And no, I haven't seen it. The first part of book 4 is really good with PTSD, but the last part was just horrible. I'm not going to try and defend book 4, because if it wasn't for Korra herself just being such an interesting character, a better character than she was, I don't think I would like it that much. I think I would be saying book 3 is the best, but I just like book 4 more because Korra is just more interesting. So starting off with book 4, they actually don't show Korra for the first episode, and I just thought of BoJack Horseman season 4, where BoJack is not there for the entire first episode. They instead show what happened to everybody. Mako made detective. I don't know if he was a detective in book 3, but he's a detective now. But he's taking a break from his detective job to be the new prince's special bodyguard. And there's actually an effect on what happened from the last season. I mean, there was an effect before, but everybody got over it pretty quickly. The whole spirits thing. Everybody got over the spirits thing pretty quickly. But because of what happened in the last season, 2 years have gone by, and the Earth Kingdom has been unstable. The Airbenders have been helping out to try and cope with Korra being down and out, because they're trying to treat Korra like a person. Like, they keep her. I like that about the Korra characters in general. All the Korra characters, as far as I can see, except for Korra herself, treat her like she's a person. It's like, you just got crippled, and I think it was Tenzu who said, it's like, I'm worried about the world, but Korra needs her rest or something. But yeah, so they start up the Air Nation Brigade, where the new Airbenders are going to help out around the Earth Nation. The random captain who had no significance last season is now basically ruling the Earth Nation. Bolin has decided to work with her because they say it's because he has a naive, nice heart. It's because he's an idiot. That's pretty, Bolin's character does not change. He just keeps being dumb. And that's annoying because, he has funny moments. He does have funny moments, but it's basically just Bolin is dumb most of the time. Modern people do not like ancient culture, so they want to get rid of the spirits instead. I don't know if that was a part of it. Avatar: The Last Airbender is the better show with the better writing and hero's journey. Korra's journey was off in the first 2 books. Yeah, it was very, very off. But yeah, going back to season 4. Eventually the group meets. Asami is still doing the same usual. I haven't even mentioned Asami for the past 2 seasons. That's what I keep saying. Asami is the weakest character of the main cast. Like, she has no character. It's basically like the little character moment she has is her and her dad, but she basically has no character. So Bolin is Sokka without the progression. Well, he's a Flanderized Sokka. It's, Sokka had buffoon moments. Bolin is just all the Sokka buffoon moments. But yeah, eventually all the characters come together and they're ready to greet Korra. And then they find out that Korra has been missing for 6 months. She was supposed to go to Public City, but she's been missing for 6 months. And then there's episode 2 called Korra Alone, which I wasn't sure if I liked or I didn't because, I immediately thought of Zuko alone. I was like, are they trying to pander to me? I don't appreciate the pandering, but it's kind of working. And they show like Korra's journey all throughout the healing process, and it showed that she is basically crippled physically and mentally. She's got a mental block, and it's pretty much going to take her all season to get through this mental block. But it makes sense that she would have this. Like, the stuff she went through would cripple anyone. And like I said, the Avatar, despite being the Avatar, is still a person. They still would have to work through that stuff. And while she lost her bending in season 1, and while she lost Rava in season 2, season 3 she almost lost her life. And while that might feel underplayed considering the first 2, she not only almost lost her life, she almost lost her life by both suffocation and poisoning. Like, that is scary most of the season. The airbending kids make a return, and they are much better, specifically Milo. Milo is actually very, very entertaining in Book 4. Like, goodness gracious, I could not get enough of Milo in Book 4. Meanwhile, blah, 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 blah. You guys all know the story. There's really no character episodes like in Avatar Last Airbender where they dedicate an episode to a character's backstory. That would have made the show instantly better. I mean, we already know Korra's backstory, so it's like, I guess, Tenzin's backstory would have been nice. But yeah, there's really no point. So mainly with this season, I just like Korra's journey, getting braver and whatnot. I haven't mentioned Varric and Zhu Li, but they're like the best things ever. The villain of this season, I did not like her. I wanted to like her. I felt like she was doing a lot of things right, but she seemed intelligent enough to know that she was being hypocritical, but just chose not to see that she was being hypocritical. How good of a leader do you rate Korra compared to the 2 other avatars? Well, of all the avatars, Kyoshi was probably the greatest leader. She inspired tons of people, and she established nations. Like, she set up the Dai Li, as far as I know. I think she did that. And she stood up to Chin the Conqueror for her people, and she had no hesitation when it came to killing. Which, that's not necessarily a good quality of a leader, but it's the fact that she doesn't hesitate in her decisions. Kyoshi definitely wins for being the best Avatar leader. Roku was the Avatar in a time of peace, so he didn't really have a chance to be a leader until Sozin came along, and then at the time he made the incorrect decision. He chose to spare Sozin because Sozin was his friend, and that led to Sozin betraying him in the 100-year war, etc. So it's historically accurate that Roku was a bad leader. Aang was kind of forced into leadership, but he wasn't the leader alone. Like, Sokka did more of the leadership stuff than Aang did. Sokka just let the ultimate decision be given to Aang out of respect. But Aang more so worked with a team than was a leader. And Korra... Book 1, Korra is a horrible leader. Book 2, Korra is a horrible leader. Book 3, she does a better job. Book 4, I think she does a better job. Better than Aang? Maybe? But again, Aang didn't really lead by himself. Aang worked with a team that ultimately let him make the final decisions on things. So anyway, going back to season 4, there's the villain. She seemed smart enough to know, because her whole goal was like, I want to protect the people from evil. And then people who disagree with her, she would throw them in education camps or flat out kill them. And I'm like, you really should see that you are being hypocritical at this point, but for some reason you don't, and the only reason I can think of is plot. So, yeah, I wasn't too big of a fan of hers. I hated her husband. He was clearly just doing that stuff to spite his family, to prove them wrong and whatnot. I think she turned on her husband too quickly. Like... And that weapon should have caused big explosions. Like, I felt it was too easy to survive that weapon. It's like, oh, if you get hit with it, you die. Well, there's a lot of things you get hit with, you die. That weapon missed. Like, I don't think that weapon killed... Well, it probably killed those people on that battleship. Those battleships. It probably killed them. But, yeah, it didn't kill Zhu Li. It didn't kill the anybody in the factory. So, by the way, I think Amon and the guy who's controlling Vatu, I can't remember his name, Korra's uncle, I don't think they killed anyone. I don't think they killed anyone that whole time they were villains, and they both died. Meanwhile, Red Lotus dude and this woman, they both killed people, and they both got locked up. But I don't think there's anything Bolin's romance in book 4. I didn't like that at all. Again, all that stuff was happening was because Bolin was an idiot, and he was very, very gullible. And then he comes back to her, and she's like super angry at him, and it's like, it's clearly because he's dumb. Like, that's clearly, and she pretty much blackmails him into helping her get her family back. Which I think is reasonable, just not how she phrases it. Like, oh, if you want to get back in my good graces, help me get my family back. It's like, no. How she should have phrased it was, help me undo what you've done. Oh, how could I forget this? Toph! Duh! Toph comes back in book 4. And I absolutely loved her. I'm upset that this was spoiled for me a long time ago that Toph was in Korra. I would have freaked out if I was watching this and then Korra just stumbled upon Toph. Like, goodness gracious, I would have freaked out. And again, I love how Toph just doesn't really bend using her arms. And she's so super powerful. She can kick Korra's butt. And she's like, yeah, and I'm an old freaking lady. Imagine me in my prime. And she only goes out to help her family. And she's like, that's the only reason I'm here. If you guys want to do this, you guys have to do it by yourself. I have to leave it to the next generation. Like, if anybody's going to be a bad parent, I do think it would be Toph. And it clearly shows that Toph was just a horrible mother. Not Lynn, but whoever Lynn's sister is, I can't remember her name. She said, Toph didn't have a lot of freedom growing up, so she tried to give her kids all the freedom they needed, but that resulted in her kids wanting her attention all the time. And yeah, I think that's the direction Toph's character would have gone. She valued freedom very, very highly because she was trapped for 10 years in her father's house. And she might have gotten over that considering it was only her childhood, but who can say? I'm not a therapist, are you? Oh, I got so mad at that line. Nice to see you again, Twinkle Toes. I was so mad. She should have said, long time no see, Twinkle Toes. Because she never sees him. It works on multiple levels. Why would she say nice to see you again? She can't see. I was so mad. I was like, not only did you mess up with using a line that makes no sense, nice to see you again, Twinkle Toes, she can't see. You had a perfect line waiting for you right there. Long time no see, Twinkle Toes. It would have worked so well. Toph is still the only one that earthbends in her own style, like literally no one else. Yeah, Lynn and what's her face? Like, I understand Lynn's sister, but Lynn her style should take more after Toph's. I don't even know why Lynn wears shoes, or at least shoes with soles. Um, I just feel bad for Lin though. I do too. Lin and Tenzin are the people I feel the most sympathy for, because they had this pressure on them. Lin's was kind of self-inflicted, but she felt it came from her mother, and Tenzin got it from Aang, that they had to carry on this legacy. Perfect talk show. Shucks, Sokka ain't have no kids. Zuko, when he was around, Zuko didn't really talk much to Korra. But so yeah, what do I think of Legend of Korra as a whole? So obviously, I don't think even most Korra fans, I don't think feel it's Avatar level. I don't think so either. I think there are so many flaws that bring this show down. I think it's okay. I think for the most part the animation is good. There are moments in season 4, because they use so much CGI, that it looks just completely bad. But I think the animation is probably its biggest contributor. Like I said, I think it's just okay. I think season 1 is okay. I think season 2 is bad. Season 3 is good, and season 4 goes back to being okay. It's just I love season 4 the most, but it's all because of Korra and Toph. All because of them too. Like the rest of the story, I don't really care for. I just like seeing those characters. I like seeing Toph return, and I like seeing Korra mature. I was getting ticked off in season 4 because I was like, this is a fully realized. It was Azula versus Zuko all over again, where I felt like Azula should have won because she was clearly better than Zuko. But I was like, this is a fully realized Avatar. Why is she not beating these people? Yeah, that's part of the story, Shady. You forgot to talk about the Aang interaction in the fog. Aang interaction. What Aang interaction? Are you referring to season 1? Aang interaction in the fog. Controversial opinion time. I think Korra's character design are actually a little bit too similar to the original series. It feels like a fan fiction because it's so formulaic. It doesn't subvert things. Korra, the overall series, yeah, does actually feel very fan fiction-y. A lot. Mainly because they make up stuff that you know goes against the original book, like, or the original story. That's why it feels fan fiction. Like they want their characters to be special. What made me mad, they took everything that made The Last Airbender so great, all the world building, character development, and stories they created for world building are gone. I mean, I think if they came out with a series about adult Aang's adventures, people would eat it up. Even despite that, people don't like Korra. Tenzin and Aang in the spirit world. Oh, that part. Okay, I know what you're talking about. That part didn't have as much of an effect on me because I already knew Tenzin's, before I even rewatched the series, I already knew Tenzin's whole arc, and I like Tenzin's arc. Well, I like a good chunk of it. And there's a lot of it that I get upset at. But I would say it's effective. I think it's weird though. What annoyed me about the fog was like, I was like, this is a fog and you're an airbender. Just move it. Like, I was like, they have their airbending. He can just bend it away. And he's not just a novice airbender. He's a powerful airbender. Like, I got so mad with Tenzin on parts. So I'm like, this is an airbending master. And he shows in different parts that he's really good at airbending. And I'm like, at other moments where he really needs it, he just doesn't use it. Who were those male characters in Korra's group? We're talking about Bolin and Mako. Oh, I almost forgot. A very big topic I did not touch on. and I put on my list. This was something I absolutely wanted to talk about. Korrasami. Now, when I first heard of Korrasami, I was like, I can't believe they actually did that. Because back then, you didn't do that stuff. And in the 2010s, for those of you who didn't watch Korra when it first came out, in the 2010s, audiences, specifically millennials, people my age, were begging for homosexuality stuff in cartoons and stuff like that. They were so thirsty for it that they would have accepted anything. And they did accept anything. They accepted Korrasami. Korrasami originally was just a fan ship. As soon as Asami came into the show, people shipped Korra with Asami. Like, as soon as she was revealed, they did that. They also shipped her with Lin, but like I said, they were thirsty. They were thirsty for any kind of same-sex representation. Now, I've heard of Korrasami for years, and one of the big things that people say is that that Korra detractors say is that there was absolutely no hint to Korrasami at all, and it comes out of nowhere. After having seen it myself, yes, it's not even official in the first of all, the creators, they tried to say, well, they tried to make it hidden because this is just what I hear say, but they tried to make it hidden because the Nick executives wouldn't let them officially do it. So when you watch it, you don't even get the notion that they're a couple. You just think that they randomly decide to go on vacation in the spirit world. It doesn't make any sense. If you read the continuation comic, the official canon comic, it does show that they are a couple. But the thing is, they say that, they had it sprinkled throughout the seasons. I watched throughout the seasons. It just seemed like they were randomly getting closer as friends. It did not seem like they were becoming a couple. And in season 4, Korra hardly has any interaction with Asami. Like, I couldn't believe how little, because I knew Korrasami was coming up. And I was like, okay, let's see what kind of build-up they give this, because there's supposed to be build-up. Korra almost doesn't talk to Asami at all. Like, goodness gracious. And I was actually confused. I was like, because Korra sent a letter to Asami and not Bolin and Mako, who she's much stronger friends with Bolin and Mako. And I was like, why are they doing that? Are they trying to set up Korrasami? But she sends one letter and then barely talks to Asami at all. Like, no, I'm convinced that ending they threw in at the last second. It's just, that again, everything involving Korra and relationships is bad. Everything in Korra and Mako, Korra and Bolin, Korra and Asami, it's all bad. Asami is just there. Yeah, like, I barely felt the need to talk about Asami in this whole video, because it's always the same thing with her. She's a pretty woman who also happens to be very good at inventing, who also happens to be very good at self-defense. She's a part of the official Team Avatar, but again, I think Tenzin deserves that spot more than she does. And she always just happens to be there when Team Avatar is doing actiony stuff. Like, freaking, what is... there is nothing to Asami. That is what ER says. What did the rapper say? It was very clearly virtually signaling because there's no build up to it now. It probably was virtual signaling. I mean, the comic afterwards, I haven't read it, but I've seen the review on it. It really seems like it was virtual signaling. Virtue signaling. I don't mind Korra and Asami together. I just wish they had better chemistry. Like, for me, they ended up together. Just didn't feel like. I feel like the writers just slapped on. But yeah, it seems so arbitrary. Like, Korra's like, let's go on a vacation. Do you not realize what just happened in the world, Korra? Like, you literally just said that your journey as the Avatar has just started. And the world was without an Avatar for 2 years. Like, what do you mean, let's go on a vacation? Like, It's so random. And why would she say it to Asami? Like, I could. If all four of them had been there, that would have been a much stronger moment. It still would have made not as much sense. But, like, if Mako, Bolin, Asami, and Korra had all been there, like, they're like, you know what? Let's just go into the spirit world and have a vacation. I would have more so believed it. Freaking Asami? Korra does not have that big of a relationship with Asami. I do sense a friendship between them. They've had enough conversations and moments that I can see them being friends. But she has a much stronger relationship with Mako and Bolin as friends. And the relationship between Korra and Asami is stupid. They didn't do any build-up to it, and it doesn't make sense to get with the girl who your ex cheated on with you. Yeah, I've seen ER's videos too. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like I said, like, I know people who like Korra. ER is like the bane of their existence, but he makes good points. Like, what two people who fought over the same guy, who you know kissed the other guy behind your back, would then not only be friends but decide to date each other? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's very hard to believe. Every team avatar needs a waterbender, earthbender, airbender, firebender, and a non-bender. So they have to add Asami. Pretty much. But I don't feel like Tenzin gets added to the team avatar roster. Like, the first time team avatar joined together, it was all the kids. And they went hunting through the city. So I don't think Tenzin counts as team avatar. Jinora should have been team avatar since she's like a strong bender that would be more useful than Asami, or at least in addition to Asami. I think in terms of personality, Tenzin works better because as the old master, he bounces off their personalities better. Jinora, because her personality is so calm and peaceful, it's really weird. Like, I think the other girl, whose name I can't remember, Milo, their personality would have been more fun. Jinora is a bit too calm. Jinora is actually pretty boring because of how calm she is. Like, Milo is the much more exciting one. And I do feel bad that the middle sister doesn't get as much screen time. Like, she got that one scene in book 4 where she was with those cops. And I was actually very interested in that scene. I feel like even though they didn't talk as much as Korra did with the boys, the content they talked about is more personal. Like, Korra felt more comfortable talking about her feelings with Asami. Korra talked about her feelings with Mako all the time. It's just that they were dating, so a lot of times it wound up as an argument. They were throwing off the vibe that it's because they're both females and they connect on that level, which is completely possible. It's just, I don't think they got enough screen time to show that there was a stronger connection than hers with Mako and Bolin. Like, she was teammates with Mako and Bolin for a good long while, and when she talks to them about certain subjects, there seems to be a bit more weight to it. Plus, Asami is constantly off doing her own thing with her company. Like, I think Asami has a stronger connection with Bolin, considering all he did for her in season 2, than she does with Korra. She looks like Aang during her tattoo ceremony. Well, they're relatives, so she is Aang's granddaughter. I feel the exact same way. I wish they all ended up going through the portal together. It would be more powerful and show how important their friendship is, because not every story has to end. Yeah, it would have made it seem like the story was continuing, that they were just taking a break from it. And it would have felt more powerful if you could get the busy Mako, who doesn't like doing that kind of stuff, to go into the portal. Like, it should have been a moment of friendship, not a romantic moment. And again, even if it was a romantic moment, those two have no chemistry. The reason why I hate Korra is because where do we go for the next show if there is one? There should be another series. I would go back. I wouldn't go forward. I would either do Aang, some more of Aang, or if I do go forward, I would go way forward. Like, I would go futuristic. I wouldn't want an Avatar in our time. If they do make the next Avatar, I hope it's them trying to get back their past Avatars, because they're still in the spirit world. Well, They might be. It's not necessarily that you die when you go to the spirit world. Certain humans have been able to make it to the spirit world. So, Iroh, when he felt his time was done, he just decided to retire in the spirit world. The Avatar specifically hang out in the spirit world, but I can't think of any other time in Avatar series where we see genuine humans who we know are dead, and we see their spirits in the spirit world. Like, Iroh is the only one, but again, he didn't necessarily die. He just retired in the spirit world. Zhao got there via a spirit pulling him in. What's-his-face got there, again, via a spirit pulling him in, but he didn't actually live forever in there. He actually died there. It could be cool if they talk about the one Avatar who fought the spirits. I think you're talking about the one who fought Ko specifically. He was a lot like Korra, apparently. Like, they said he was very lax. He himself said he just went with the flow when it came to things, and that's how he lost his wife's face to Ko, because he wasn't a very decisive Avatar. General Zhao in the fog was awesome, especially thinking that Tenzin was. yeah, that was pretty good. Avatar Korra, by the way, is still in the spirit world in the comics, trying to find the centipede spirit. Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. I don't know much about the comics. I just know hearsay. Like I heard that Kyoshi formed the Dai Li, but I don't know that. He's still trying to find Ko. I mean, Aang found him like that. So let's switch this, and we're just talking about Legend of Korra now. So this whole time, the ambient noise was playing, and I didn't know. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that noise was playing the whole time. Because it doesn't play for me, it plays in the street. Yeah. Because this right here, I have this background up, and it has ambient noise, and it was playing that whole time. Background you guys like better? Like the Korra one, this one, which I use in my videos, or the classic? I didn't know it was up. Because it goes, the noise goes with this background. This is the background I use in my videos, so that's why it was playing. But I had the Korra background up, so. Yeah, Korra literally bent the spirit energy from the cannon. Well, I think. Did she? I don't recall that. Oh yeah, she did. That wasn't really a Deus Ex Machina though. It was like they showed her bending spirit. Like Rava said, in the spirit world you can bend spirit stuff, so they kind of foreshadowed it. I can't. No, there's supposed to be a the. just chilling now. You guys can ask questions if you want. Got any Among Us fans in here? By the way, Republic City should literally be in channels economically. Yeah, within the past 2 years, they've had three catastrophic events. But then again, you know, Marvel's New York City is still fine. How many times has the end of the world happened there? So powerful that she tore open a fabric in space and created a portal. Well, it was the combined power of Korra and the Spirit Cannon. So, the series just does kind of end abruptly, doesn't it? It's like, where do you go from here? Like, you just open a portal. What significance does that have? The portals really don't have significance. Like, at the end of book 2, she opened a portal, the 2 portals, and the spirits came through, yeah, but they didn't really have any big significance on the plot. I mean, let's think about The Last Airbender. The big thing about The Last Airbender is that the Fire Nation was unable to siege the North Pole. How did that affect the story? Zhao's gone, so there's the one directly chasing the Avatar is no longer Zhao, it's Azula. How does that affect the war? It doesn't really affect the world that much, it's just that the Fire Nation was unable to conquer the North. In the end of book 2, they were able to conquer Ba Sing Se, and that does affect the world and the story heavily. I really wish they explored more with the Benders versus non-Benders story. Well, again, that one was clearly cut short. But yeah, I mean, yeah. It's very synonymous with what goes on in Western civilization, what has been going on for the past, what, 15, 20 years? Maybe more? No updates about Sokka x Suki family. Who even knows if Sokka married Suki? Like, Sokka barely gets any mention in the Legend of Korra. It's very sad. Like, I remember him being on the Council of Republic City. I remember him being the first one to stop the Red Lotus. The first one. One of the people who stopped the Red Lotus. I still don't get how everyone outlived Aang. Like, Aang was an extremely healthy person, and he's a firebender. Like, Sozin's Comet extends the lives of firebenders. So, of course, Zuko would still be alive, but freaking Sokka, Katara both outlived Aang. And Toph, sorry. Sokka, Katara, and Toph all outlived Aang. Like, what? So, the first Avatar was 10,000 years before Korra was there. Isn't as many Avatars as people might think. There's only like 1,000 Avatars. If, say, the average person lived for 100 years, that would be more than... Oh, my stomach just growled. I'm hungry. That would be more than... Would it be 100? If, say, the person... Actually, you might be right. Oh, let me do that math. I completely did that math wrong in my head. Wow. Yeah, there's only like 1,000 Avatars. You're right. Wow, I completely did that math wrong. Oh, like 10... No. 10,000 divided by... Yeah, there's only been like 100 Avatars, really. If the average Avatar lived to be like 100, Yeah, there would only be like 100 avatars. Wow. Good point. I thought there would be way more than that. I did the math completely wrong. They claim it was because his body was weaker from being trapped in the iceberg or something. But he lived through 2 Sozin's comets. Like, even if it was weaker from the iceberg, he lived through 2 Sozin's comets. So there's no reason why he shouldn't. That doesn't make any sense. The energy bending reduced his lifespan. Okay, I guess that would make sense. I did not see how the elements changed Korra throughout the series because the elements symbolize a lot more than how Iroh explained to Zuko. How the elements changed Korra throughout the series? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Aang died young because he spends too much time in the iceberg, the creator said. That doesn't make any sense. That seems like a retcon. Kyoshi lived for 240 years or something. What, out of pure determination? Kyoshi is like the most epic avatar of the ones we know about. Kyoshi just did not take anything from anybody. But Kuruk only got 35. Well, he was reckless, so. Plus, he probably was the avatar in a time of peace, like Roku. Yeah, it just seems like they didn't really think it through, and then they had to come up with a reason to me, rather than the iceberg being a genuine thing that they thought through. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear it. My stomach keeps growling. What have I been streaming for? 2.5 hours. I need a Kyoshi spin-off. Well, I did want one, but seeing as how they've retconned her now, I don't know if I want anymore. Korra wasn't the best thing, and the comics freaking retcon Kyoshi, so. Azula best villain. Azula best character. Hands down. Azula best character. Kyoshi lived that long because Death was too scared to confront her, pretty much. Death was like, Kyoshi, it's time. Kyoshi says, not today. Okay, I'll come back. When's a good time for you? I'll let you know. Sometimes people die young. Also, Aang has been in the iceberg for 100 years. Yeah, the thing the point I'm making is Sozin's comet expands your life span if you're a firebender. Aang is a firebender, so his lifespan should have been expanded, and he lived through 2 Sozin's comets. And Aang, like, was a very healthy person. That's the thing. Like Sokka, I could expect to die young because he just ate whatever, and he was a warrior. Aang ate a very healthy diet, got plenty of exercise, and plenty of fresh air. In what way did they retcon Kyoshi? Well, it's not so much a retcon as it is they added stuff to her story that she didn't have before. I guess that is a retcon. They made Kyoshi gay. Apparently. They also made her final. Maybe the iceberg acts like a shield that protected him from the effects of the comet. Possible, but does it count if he couldn't firebend the first time? He was still a firebender, though. Like, I don't know. the chi pathways, they are a bit confusing. Like they explain like, gee, my stomach is growling. They explain the reason why Korra lost her airbending is because she had never opened the chi pathways before for airbending when Amon took her airbending away, or something like that. So I guess there's different chi pathways when you do fire or earth or air or whatever. Or whatever. There was only one more left, Shady. I wonder whatever happened to Sokka. It's a shame they never explained what happened to him. They just pretty much allude to the fact that he died. Him and Aang, literally the only two. I guess Suki too. That's the thing. I don't consider Suki a proper part of Team Avatar. Like, I know she's there at the end, and Suki is an amazing character. I do not dislike Suki at all. But she was there for like a couple episodes. She wasn't on the team for very long. They rescued her from the prison, and then yeah, she just helped with saving the end of the world. It's hard to consider, like, Zuko was with the gang for not that long, but considering he was chasing them on a similar journey for a similar amount of time, I still consider him part of Team Avatar. I guess story-wise, I just don't consider Suki part of Team Avatar. And I don't mean that as an insult. Again, I love Suki. She's an awesome character. Kyoshi's bisexual? Oh, okay. I mean, but yeah, that it was put out in the... Jeez, my stomach. It was put out in the comic as in that same comic where Korra and Asami were just like, yeah, we're definitely gay. Yeah, it's so awesome that we're gay. Isn't it awesome that we're gay? Yeah. Like, it was in that same comic. When one took Korra's the element to close those chakras, but open the air chakra as a result. I don't think that's not how chakras in how the show explains it works. I don't think. Let me look it up. Okay, so there are... Okay. Alright, so yeah, I was wrong. Alright. So whoever said that, yeah, that could actually be an explanation. She didn't even try onion and banana juice. They didn't re-bring that up. That would have been a nice cameo pander. I would have been so pandered to if they brought up onion and banana juice. And they had a moment too, because there was a moment where Korra meets this guy on who sells like food and drinks and stuff, and he says, "Oh yeah, I met Avatar Aang, and he loved this food." It could have been onion and banana juice then, and they could have made Korra drink it, and it was disgusting. Or Toph could have had some onion and banana juice. They don't allude to it. Katara says he's dead. I recall her saying, "My brother's time has passed." But I don't... She might have just flat out said he's dead. No, it's in the books, it's in the Kyoshi books, they are canon. I think it's funny that Nick is proud about Korra being gay. She didn't even try. The music is so chill. Thank you! I was trying to find a song that would not get old. People, it looks like we have reached the end, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I've talked about everything, I believe. Just wanted to get that out. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. In case you missed it, like I said, I was watching Korra because I have some Avatar projects coming up, and I was like, well, since I've watched the whole thing, I might as well talk to my audience about it. So I have done that now. So keep your eyes out for some future Avatar projects and future projects in general. do not keep your eyes out for the Star versus Force of Evil finale. I am still gonna do it, but I've had to push that back so long because of just how big it's gonna be. But yeah, we'll get to doing that, and I'll see you guys in whatever video comes next. Again, thanks for stopping by, guys. I appreciate it. This is fun. This has been Shady Directs. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen.